All right, we got some breaking news today. Something that if you're employed in the United States, you're going to want to hear this one.
Absolutely, this is a long time coming, and it's really some really important news that affects almost 60 million employees within the United States. Little quick teaser, it has to do with removing sexual harassment and sexual abuse claims from any forced arbitration clauses. So this allows a lot more rights to the employees that they didn't previously have.
And I think Biden's already signed off on it. So
Yes.
this is big news. Now, check out the video. Give us a like. If you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe. Welcome to the Real Estate Jam session. Today, I'm doing something a little bit different. As you can see, I've got multiple guests. George, you probably know, has been on the show several times, but I got a very special guest. Actually, you've seen Carrie on the show before, but today it's I guess it's breaking news, right?
Yeah.
And so, just yesterday, Congress passed a bill to in arbitration clauses in employment contracts. And Carrie you originally got the Carrie Bobb's law, got it started, correct?
Yeah. So there were two bills. It's a little complicated, but everything that was in Carrie's law is in the bill that passed yesterday.
Incredible.
So it's just such a trip. And you and I were texting last night. And do you want me to get into what we were?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's hear it top to bottom. This is so interesting and so incredible because it affects so many people.
Well,
it really
inspirational.
Oh, you guys. I am so glad our paths crossed last year. I had so much fun getting to know you, and you endorsed the bill like without even giving it a thought, and it's so great when you meet people like that. And so you guys have just been incredible, and I cannot thank you enough for the support. I was working on what I'm going to say for a post, and it's just really hard to articulate the gratitude that I have for the people who just rallied and like stood with us. So really quickly, just an overview of the bill is basically when you sign your employment contract, over half of Americans, so over 60 million people, had an arbitration clause in their employment contract, which meant you cannot sue your employer. And it's for any cause, including rape or sexual assault. So if you're raped at work and somebody from your corporate job rapes you, you cannot sue your employer.
Right.
So we were advocating to carve out sexual assault and rape from arbitration clauses in employment contracts. The bill that passed yesterday includes all of that, and then also harassment. And so it was really surreal yesterday. My phone was blowing up, including from you, Joe, which was so cool. Yeah. But I was a little like, this can't be happening, because when I was lobbying and meeting with members, when the bill was first introduced, when Carrie's law was first introduced a little over a year ago, I asked one of the legislative directors, I was like, what are we looking at here time-wise for this thing to pass? And they were like, Carrie, you need to understand what you've done in getting a bill introduced is such a massive accomplishment. And this doesn't happen to the average person. Like less than 1% of people are able to actually get a bill introduced. And so what you've done is just amazing. You might not see this bill passed in your lifetime. So be prepared for that.
Wow.
And so I was mentally in a place where it was like, this is my life's work. I will always be lobbying for this bill. And then yesterday morning, my phone started, I woke up at like 4:30 and my phone already had texts and messages from my friends on the East Coast.
Right.
And I didn't let myself really, I thought, no, this can't be right. And I wanted to check with the members who had been helping me with Carrie's law before doing anything. And so I heard back from everybody in the afternoon, and they were like, this is it. You did it. Like all the members that I met with all sponsored this bill. And so the efforts that we all made were totally aligned with this bill. And they're like, this is it. This is your moment. You did it. And it wasn't until after putting my kids down to bed last night, I was sitting in the chair by their bed. And that's when I was texting you last night, Joe. Like that moment was like, I thought this was going to be like my life's work. And it was just really, really incredible. And the response from our industry has been really, really cool.
Well, it's something that definitely needed to happen. Honestly, I wasn't that aware of it. So you started talking about it, and then it was in your story. I mean, I don't know how deep you would mind going into your story and how this actually started. Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was working at CBRE for 16 years doing retail leasing, working on ground up mixed use developments. And I used retail leasing to add value vertically with the retail brands and things like that. And I was attending ICSC in Vegas in 2018. And I was winning a national award, or I was receiving a national award on behalf of the company. And my photo was like 20 feet high. And it was like my moment. I was 39 years old at the time. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I couldn't have imagined all of that recognition at the time. And then later that evening, I was drugged and raped by an executive with the company at a dinner. And it wasn't like we've all been to ICSC. It wasn't like I was in a nightclub at 2 a.m.
Sure.
It was a white tablecloth dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked away from my portfolio, and I was earning more money than I had ever made in my career. And so my little sister, who's a Marine and an attorney, told me, she goes, this is not about money. If you can afford to live for another year or two, let's wait, and we're going to know it when we see it of what your case is about, because you're negotiating with $1 billion company. So no matter how much money you get, you will always lose. So let's play this out. All you have to do is hold the line. Like, just stand there. Don't run towards the fight. Don't back away from the fight. Just hold your position. And so I did that for a year, which that is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It was really, really intense. And I was bound by confidentiality. And so you're in this place where no one knows what's going on. You're being buried alive by a really powerful entity. And so that was in May when I was hurt. And then in November of 18, Google had an international worldwide walkout where 20,000 employees walked off the job over arbitration. And my sister calls me that morning, and the Wall Street Journal printed the demand list of the Google employees, 20,000 Google employees. My sister calls me. She's like, this is it. Remember, I told you we would know it when we saw it. This is it. This is what your case is about. And I was kind of skeptical. Like, this seems like a really big case with Google, Google's big. And she goes, you have the case that sets precedent. The other people that are fighting for Google cannot talk about their story because they've been bound by confidentiality. You need to go get your voice back. And then we're going to go write policy to change it. And I was kind of like, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen, but I'll just go get my voice back.
Yeah.
I'll just do the next step, because thinking about the next couple steps was too daunting. And so, yeah, I went into mediation, and my demand list was the same demand list as 20,000 Google employees. And I did not take money for confidentiality and just got my voice back, and then started lobbying. So the case settled in May of 2019. And in June, I started lobbying the different members. And it truly is miraculous.
Oh yeah. Well, and the time too. I mean, it went from your lifetime to a few years.
Yeah.
It's impressive the way all this has come together this fast, and this should show how badly it was needed. Now, so what was the typical process? So in the clauses before arbitration, so you'd have somebody come in and mediate it, and it cost the company $800. So most of the time before, the companies are just walking away from this unscathed, correct?
Yeah, and it's a little bit of checkmate, because they pay the arbitrator. And so I did not go through arbitration. Right. I mediated, because I knew if I went through arbitration, you're screwed basically, because there are no appeals. So if the arbitrator says, no, we think it was consensual and you were drinking and there's nothing here, then there's nothing, and you're still bound by confidentiality. So I knew I did not want to go through arbitration. So we mediated, but there's no accountability or transparency. So like the person who hurt me had been there over 20 years with the company. I had a forensic psychiatrist say that he's a serial rapist. It's more likely than not he's done this multiple times. And there's a whole long list of things. I had 7 different drugs in my toxicology. I had findings on all 3 different SART exams. A SART exam is a rape kit, and they do 3 different kinds of exams. So it was really intense. This is not somebody that it appears is like, let me see if I can get away with this. He knows exactly what he's doing. And so if there had ever been an accusation of harassment or rape in the past, I could not find it. Yeah. And the only way people knew about my case was in the company was because I went public with it after the bill was introduced. And I was scared to death to talk about it publicly. And I only did because of the bill. And I felt like I had something to stand on, but I was still freaked out about what it would do to my reputation in the industry.
Well, I think also what you mentioned a couple times before that a lot of people don't realize is a lot of this, the arbitration clauses, they have confidentiality clauses within them so that you can't even talk about what's maybe going on with other coworkers or warn them what happened to you, and for them to be aware of it. So it creates that whole almost, the see no evil, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, more on the corporate side of life. But which is why I find this so inspirational, the bravery to do that and step forward. Amazing.
Thank you. And the confidentiality was the biggest thing for me, because I was not advocating that people go sue their employers. Like nobody wants that. But you want the transparency in the workplace. Yes. So if there's been issues in the past, it's discoverable. Because if the person who hurt me had any claims of sexual harassment, or he made people feel uncomfortable or anything like that, you cannot find it. There's nothing discoverable. And it's really hard to believe that it would go from like 0 to 60 over 25 years or something. So it's the transparency that is the most important. And then there's a couple things. The way the law works is that a company is only responsible in the case of rape if the perpetrator was a company officer, a managing agent, which means they can change company policy. So it's usually somebody that's an owner of the company, or who is not just a manager, but like a C-suite level decision maker. And so it's that, or if the company had prior knowledge that person was dangerous. So what this bill that was passed yesterday does is say, if you had claims of sexual harassment on somebody, they can no longer afford to keep those people employed, because now they know that they're dangerous, and now it's discoverable, and the company is liable if they don't do anything about that person. Yeah. That's why this bill is so important, because it should clean house, and it'll be interesting to see if we start seeing people get fired.
I'm guessing you probably will. Now, can it be retroactive? Can you go back now? No.
Okay. I mean, can you imagine what
I was going to say? That would be attorney's dream, everybody else's nightmare, right?
Right.
What a mess that would be.
Yeah.
So going forward, it has to be signed in. We just need President Biden to sign it in, and we're done, right?
Right.
That's incredible.
I know, it's wild. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I remember sitting up in Tahoe talking to you about this. I'm like, I cannot believe this is actually in an employment agreement and that people are signing this. And
yeah, it's like tucked in there. In my employment, I was 23 years old when I signed it, and I was 39 when I was hurt. And in the arbitration clause, all it is the word tort.
Right.
So and tort means any wrongful act. So a company can harm you in any way, including rape you, and you cannot sue the company, which means it's not discoverable. And so that is really misleading, especially to people, one who want the job. Like, who's going to not take a job because of this word in an arbitration? Like, it doesn't even cross your mind. You don't even know what you're signing. And then you're not really going to push back on that because you're like, that's never going to happen to me. And so the company already owns you before anything, they've silenced you before anything
Right.
bad happens, essentially. So it's just wild. It's such a trip.
Yeah, it's going to be anxious to see how this does play out and see if lawsuits do start happening. But you know, it's something that you've been an integral part to get this started, and it's been incredible for everybody involved. And so thank you for taking the time and the patience, and your military lawyer sister. Did I hear that right?
Marine. You're going to want to, they're going to be very specific. She's a Marine.
Oh boy.
She was my secret weapon.
Well,
For sure.
Thank God for
Yeah.
secret weapons, huh? Because what you guys have accomplished is something that is incredible for all employees, not just women, but for all employees. It's something. So what are next steps? What are you going to tackle now?
You know, it was really interesting. I started the foundation, not totally knowing what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to try and change this policy. And we had such incredible companies endorsing it. Like at first, the first companies that endorsed were Intel, Microsoft, Uber, and Allstate. And so that's like a pretty strong lineup. And so it was like, okay, let's use this foundation in some way. And I had this idea about creating scholarships for female entrepreneurs that are developing businesses with purpose, right? Purposeful businesses. And so we're building that now. And then we're doing some events with really cool people about how to take when life is really crappy and you get dealt a really bad hand, how do you create something really great out of something really bad? So that's as far as I can see right now, because I didn't realize this was all going to happen so quickly. So it's been really cool. And what's been so amazing is our industry that's been notorious for bad behavior is all the incredible people, including yourselves and your company, and especially the small brokerage companies who have just jumped on. Like, it's been a lot. It's been so overwhelming. And when I was like in our basement, basically fighting this fight by myself, and I felt like nobody could see what was happening. And I thought, if I go public, even with a bill on my story, like I'm done, is really what I was prepared for. I was not prepared at all for the overwhelming response from the men in our industry and just the businesses and the companies who rallied. It's been overwhelming. And that's been really, really cool.
Yeah. And I think that really goes to your point that I think a lot of people may not have really understood the full impact of those clauses in there. And then, once it's actually out in the open, you can explain it. Everyone's like, well, logically, that makes no sense. So why have it there? And, I think, one of the things that's great about this, I know that the bill got bipartisan support and went through very quickly. It's a no-brainer. It's just that it needed to be heard. And I'm so glad that you were able to be the voice for that.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for you guys and the other companies that have endorsed. I could not have ever pictured any of it.
Yeah. Well, it's a huge moment in the business world, and a large part of that's due to what you were able to put together. And so very, very incredible. So it's a Carrie Bobb Foundation, correct?
Yeah, the Carrie Bobb Foundation. And we're meeting this afternoon to talk about next steps, because it was like, what?
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
What do we do now?
Yeah, let's go do it. So it's been really cool. So stay tuned. We'll have some.
Well, I'm going to put the link to your foundation down below. Also, if you need a good retail broker in San Diego, I've got your girl for you right here. She handles retail and phenomenal commercial real estate broker. So Carrie, congratulations on this huge win for yourself and for all employees. I think it's phenomenal what you've done, and very, very brave. I don't know if I would have been able to do it. So it's we're very thankful.
Thank you.
So, and George, thank you for coming on today too.
Yeah. I think it's the quietest I've been. So.
Yeah, he wanted to be on today, Carrie, and just to say hi and congratulations. And so you know,
Absolutely.
it's a milestone in our industry, I think, and you know, you created it. So I will, again, I'll put all your links down below so everybody can find you. Folks, if you have enjoyed this video or if you want to reach out to Carrie Bobb, again, all down below. If you want to reach out to me, I'll connect you, however you want to do it. If you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe and tune in next week.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.